My own bedroom. The one I'd slept in for 43 years. I was supposed to be knocked out on those sleeping pills Dr. Hammond prescribed after my hip surgery, but something in my gut told me not to take them that night. Call it intuition. Call it paranoia. I don't care what you call it, it saved my life. I was lying there in the dark, pretending to sleep, when I heard my front door open. Not the squeak of a break-in. No. The confident click of someone using a key. My heart started hammering so hard I thought whoever was coming up those stairs would hear it. I kept my eyes closed to slits, my breathing slow and steady like I'd practiced in those yoga classes at the senior center. Then I heard voices. Low. Urgent. One of them was my daughter-in-law, Petra. The other I didn't recognize, a woman's voice, clinical and cold. She should be out cold by now, Petra whispered. I watched her take both pills at dinner. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't taken those pills. I'd hidden them under my tongue and spit them out when she left my room. Something about the way she'd stood there, watching me swallow, had felt wrong. The bedroom door creaked open and light from the hallway spilled across my quilt. I could see two shadows approaching my bed. The stranger was carrying something, a small medical bag. That's when I remembered the security camera my neighbor's son, Deshaun, had installed last month after that string of break-ins on Maple Street. It was hidden in the smoke detector, pointed right at my bed. Mrs. Kovac, the stranger's voice was syrupy sweet. I'm Nurse Brennan. Your son Marcus sent me to help you feel more comfortable. Just a little something to help you sleep better. Through my barely open eyes, I watched her pull out a syringe. Petra stood at the foot of my bed, her arms crossed, her face lit by her phone screen. How long until she's coherent enough to sign? Petra asked. Maybe 20 minutes after the injection, the nurse replied. She'll be awake but suggestible. Compliant. Won't remember much in the morning. That's when I knew. This wasn't about my comfort. This was about my signature. About my house. About the money Vernon left me when he died 2 years ago. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. But something told me to stay still. To let them think they'd won. Because that camera was recording everything, and I'd learned a long time ago that the best weapon isn't rage, it's evidence. What happens when the needle gets closer to her arm? Can she keep pretending to sleep? Hit that like button and let's find out together, because this grandmother isn't going down without a fight. The nurse moved closer, and I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that didn't match the evil she was about to do. My right arm was exposed, lying on top of the blanket. She reached for it with cold, latex-gloved fingers. Every muscle in my body screamed to pull away, but I forced myself to stay limp. Dead weight. Like I was already unconscious. Wait, Petra hissed. What if she wakes up? What if she fights? The nurse let out a small laugh that made my skin crawl. At 79, with a fresh hip surgery? She couldn't fight off a kitten. Besides, this is just a mild sedative. Technically legal if anyone asks. We're just helping her sleep. Technically legal. Those words bounced around my skull like bullets. I felt the cold alcohol swab on my inner arm. Then the nurse's fingers, pressing, searching for a vein. This was it. In 3 seconds, that needle would pierce my skin. But then my phone rang. The landline on my nightstand, loud, shrill, old-fashioned. Both women jumped. Ignore it, Petra snapped. But the nurse had already pulled back, the syringe hovering in the air. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. In that brief silence, I heard Petra let out a shaky breath. Let's do this fast. Marcus is waiting downstairs with the papers. Marcus. My own son. The boy I raised. The man I paid for through college while working double shifts at the packaging plant after his father left. He was downstairs. Right now. Waiting to rob me. The nurse positioned the needle again. I felt the sharp tip touch my skin, and then I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Sirens. Faint, but getting louder. Is that? The nurse started. Police, Petra finished, her voice cracking with panic. Someone must have seen us come in. We need to go. Now. They bolted. I heard them thundering down the stairs, heard the back door slam, heard a car engine roar to life in my driveway. Only then did I open my eyes fully. Only then did I let myself shake. I grabbed my cell phone from under my pillow and pulled up the security app Deshawn had installed. There it was. All of it. Crystal clear footage of two women standing over me with a syringe, talking about making me compliant so I'd sign papers. I sat up slowly, my hips screaming in protest, and I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally understood what Vernon meant when he said, the truth doesn't need to yell. It just needs to show up. And baby, my truth had just shown up in high definition, time-stamped, and saved to the cloud. But the sirens weren't real. There were no police coming. That sound came from my neighbor's house. Their teenage son had gotten pulled over 3 houses down for a broken taillight. Pure coincidence. Pure luck. Or maybe Vernon was watching over me after all. I looked at the footage again. Watched Petra's face, cold and calculating. Watched the nurse, a stranger willing to drug an old woman for money. And I realized something that made my hands stop shaking and my spine straighten. I wasn't the victim in this story anymore. I was the one holding all the cards. And tomorrow morning, I was going to play my hand. She's got the proof, but what's her next move? And why did her own son want her signature so badly? Smash that subscribe button because this grandmother is about to teach her family a lesson they'll never forget. I didn't sleep another minute that night. How could I? I sat in my rocking chair by the window, watching the sun come up over the maple trees Vernon planted the year we bought this house. My mind was racing, but my hands were steady now. I'd already emailed the video to 3 different addresses, my email, my friend Claudette's email, and a draft folder I could access from anywhere. Deshawn had taught me that. Always have backups, Mrs. Kovac, he'd said. Never trust just one copy. At 7:30, my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at his name on the screen, feeling something twist in my chest. This was the boy who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager who cried in my arms when his first girlfriend broke his heart. The man who gave me a beautiful speech at Vernon's funeral about how I was the strongest woman he'd ever known. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 8. Then 8:15. Then 8:30. Each time, I let it ring. I needed time to think. To plan. To figure out who I could trust. At 9 o'clock, there was a knock at my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw Marcus standing there, holding a box from Rosie's Bakery, my favorite cinnamon rolls. He was wearing that apologetic smile he'd perfected as a child, the one that used to get him out of trouble. Not today. I opened the door but kept the chain lock on. Morning, Ma, he said, holding up the box. Thought I'd bring breakfast. You feeling okay? You didn't answer your phone. I'm feeling just fine, I said, my voice flat. Actually, I had the most interesting night. I watched his face. Watched for the tell, that little twitch near his left eye he'd had since childhood whenever he lied. There it was. "Oh yeah," he said, too casually. "Everything okay? You tell me, Marcus. You were here last night, weren't you? Downstairs. Waiting." The color drained from his face. The bakery box trembled in his hands. "Ma, I don't know what you're talking about. I was home with Petra and the kids all night. You must have had a dream. Those pain medications can cause..." "Don't," I cut him off, my voice sharp as glass. "Don't you dare stand on my porch and gaslight me. I know what I saw. I know what happened. And I have proof." He went very still. "Proof?" "Video," I said. "Clear as day. Your wife and some nurse, standing over my bed with a syringe, talking about making me compliant enough to sign papers." "What papers, Marcus? What did you need my signature on so badly that you drugged your own mother?" His jaw clenched. The apologetic mask slipped, and for just a second, I saw something ugly underneath. Something desperate and greedy that I'd never seen in my son before. "Ma, listen. You don't understand. The house is falling apart. Your medical bills are piling up. We're trying to help you. We were going to move you somewhere nice, somewhere with people to take care of you." "You mean steal my house," I said. "Sell it. Take the money. Maybe put me in the cheapest nursing home you could find and pocket the difference." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "It's not like that," he finally said, but his voice was weak. "Then tell me what it's like," I said. "Because from where I'm standing, my son conspired to drug me and forge my signature. That's elder abuse, Marcus. That's fraud. That's criminal." I watched him process this. Watched the realization hit him that I wasn't confused, wasn't medicated, wasn't the helpless old woman he thought he could manipulate. "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. I smiled, and it wasn't kind. "I don't know yet," I said. "But you're going to find out real soon." Then I closed the door in his face. Locked it. And walked back to my kitchen to make myself a cup of coffee and figure out my next move. The confrontation has begun, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. What papers were they trying to make her sign? Drop a comment if you think she should go straight to the police or handle this her own way. And stick around, because Grandma's revenge is about to get real. After Marcus left, I did something I should have done months ago. I went into Vernon's old study, the room I'd barely touched since he died, and I started looking through our files. Vernon had been meticulous about paperwork. Every tax return, every deed, every insurance policy, organized in labeled folders in his oak filing cabinet. But when I opened the drawer marked legal documents, my heart stopped. There were gaps. Empty spaces where documents should have been. The deed to our house was gone. Our life insurance paperwork was gone. Even Vernon's will, the original copy we'd had notarized, was missing. In their place was a single folder I'd never seen before, labeled in handwriting that wasn't Vernon's or mine. Inside was a power of attorney document. Dated 3 months ago. With my signature at the bottom. Except I'd never signed it. I'd never even seen it before. The signature looked like mine, same shaky loops, same way I crossed my T's, but I knew with absolute certainty I hadn't put pen to that paper. I grabbed my phone and took pictures of every page. Then I called the one person I knew I could trust. Claudette Moreau answered on the second ring. "Vivian? Girl, it's 9:30 in the morning. This better be good. Claudette and I had been friends since we worked together at the packaging plant in 1979. She was the sister I never had, the only person who knew all my secrets and loved me anyway. I need you to come over, I said. And bring your daughter. The lawyer one. Therese? What's going on? I told her everything. The attempted injection. The video. The missing documents. The forged power of attorney. By the time I finished, Claudette was silent for a long moment. Then she said, in that low, dangerous voice I'd only heard a handful of times, I'm bringing Therese. Don't open the door for anyone else. We'll be there in 20 minutes. They arrived in 15. Therese Moreau was a criminal defense attorney who didn't smile much and didn't suffer fools at all. She sat at my kitchen table, reading through the power of attorney document with an expression that could freeze fire. This is a fraud, she said flatly. A really good one, but still a fraud. The signature is traced or digitally reproduced. See here, she pointed to the loops in my name, the pen pressure is too uniform. When people sign naturally, there are variations. This is too perfect. Can we prove it? I asked. In court? Yes. Handwriting analysis, document forensics. But that takes time and money. She looked up at me with sharp, dark eyes. The faster way is to trap them. Make them think you're giving in, then catch them in the act. A sting operation? Claudette said, leaning forward. My 79-year-old best friend playing undercover cop? Not exactly, Therese said. More like giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Vivian, do you know what they wanted you to sign last night? What documents your son had waiting downstairs? I shook my head. Then we need to find out. Because whatever it is, that's the leverage. That's what they're desperate for. And desperate people make mistakes. I thought about Marcus standing on my porch, holding those cinnamon rolls, his face pale with fear. About Petra, cold and calculating, watching that nurse prepare the syringe. About the years I'd spent building this life, this home, this security, only to have my own family try to steal it all while I slept. How do we do it? I asked. How do we trap them? Therese smiled for the first time since arriving. We make them think the injection worked. We make them think you signed whatever they wanted. We let them believe they won. She pulled out her laptop. And then we gather every piece of evidence, every transaction, every lie, and we bury them so deep they'll never see daylight again. Claudette reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You sure about this, Viv? Once you start, there's no going back. This is your son we're talking about. I looked at the forged signature on that document. Thought about how many times I'd sacrificed for Marcus, how many times I'd put his needs before my own. How I'd worked myself to exhaustion to give him a better life. And how he'd repaid me by trying to drug me in my own bed. He stopped being my son the moment he came into my house with a syringe and a lie, I said. Now he's just a thief. And I'm going to make sure he pays for it. The trap is set, but can a grandmother really outsmart her own family? And what exactly are they trying to steal from her? Hit that notification bell because things are about to get intense. Comment below what you think Marcus wanted her to sign. Therese left me with instructions. Clear. Simple. Terrifying. Call Marcus, she'd said. Tell him you're confused. Tell him you don't remember last night clearly. Make him think the drugs worked after all. Now I was sitting on my couch, phone in hand, trying to remember how to be a good actress. I'd done community theater back in the 80s, played Dolly in Hello, Dolly at the rec center. But this was different. This wasn't entertainment. This was survival. I dialed Marcus's number. He answered before the first ring finished. "Ma?" His voice was tight with anxiety. "Marcus, honey," I said, making my voice soft and confused. "I'm sorry about this morning. I think I had a bad reaction to my pain medication. I had the strangest dreams last night. Did you stop by? I thought I saw you, but everything's so foggy." Silence. Then, "Yeah, Ma. I stopped by with Petra. We were worried about you. You seemed really out of it." The lie came so easily to him. That hurt worse than anything. "I don't remember much," I continued. Did I sign something? There are papers on my kitchen table and I don't remember putting them there." Another pause. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating. "We had some documents for you to look at," he said carefully. "About the house. About making things easier for you. Do you remember what we talked about?" "Not really," I lied. "Everything's such a blur. Maybe you should come over and explain it to me again? When I'm more clear-headed?" "Yeah," he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. "Yeah, that's a good idea. How about this afternoon? 2 o'clock? That would be perfect, sweetie." "And Marcus?" "I'm sorry if I was confused this morning. You know how these medications make me." "It's okay, Ma. We understand. See you at 2. He hung up. I set the phone down and realized my hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time. From rage. Claudette, who'd been sitting across from me the whole time, let out a low whistle. "Girl, you should have been in Hollywood. That was perfect." "I feel sick," I said. Lying to him like that. "He tried to drug you, Vivian. He hired a nurse to inject you with sedatives so he could steal your house. You're not the one who should feel guilty here." She was right, but it didn't make it easier. At 1:30, Therese arrived with a briefcase full of equipment. A tiny recording device that looked like a pen. Another camera, smaller than a button, that she clipped to the collar of my cardigan. "Everything will be recorded," she said. "Audio and video. Make him explain what he wants. Make him say it out loud. The more details, the better." "What if he gets suspicious?" I asked. "What if he notices the camera?" "He won't," Therese said confidently. "People see what they expect to see. He expects a confused old woman who's easy to manipulate. So that's what you'll give him." At 1:55, Claudette and Therese left through the back door. They'd wait in Claudette's car parked down the street, listening to everything through the recording device. I was alone. Just me and my racing heart and the cameras recording everything. At exactly 2 o'clock, Marcus knocked. I took a deep breath, smoothed my cardigan, and opened the door. He wasn't alone. Petra was with him, and so was a man I'd never seen before, mid-50s, expensive suit, carrying a leather portfolio. "Ma, this is Donald Fitzroy," Marcus said. "He's a real estate attorney. We thought it would help to have a professional explain everything to you." A real estate attorney. So that's what this was about. My house. The 4-bedroom craftsman on a double lot that Vernon and I had paid off 15 years ago. The house that was worth close to $600,000 now that the neighborhood had gotten trendy. They wanted me to sign it over. Come in, I said, playing the part of the sweet, confused grandmother. Can I get anyone coffee? We're fine, Ma, Marcus said, guiding me to the couch like I was made of glass. Let's just go over these papers. It's really simple. Just a few signatures and everything will be taken care of. Donald Fitzroy opened his portfolio and pulled out a stack of documents. Mrs. Kovac, your son has explained your situation. Recent hip surgery, mounting medical bills, difficulty maintaining such a large property. What we're proposing is a transfer of deed to a trust. A trust? I interrupted, letting my voice quaver just a little. What kind of trust? One that Marcus and Petra will manage on your behalf, Fitzroy continued smoothly. This way, you'll have access to the home's equity for medical expenses and care, but without the burden of property taxes, maintenance, or liability. It's really in your best interest. I looked at the papers. At Marcus's eager face. At Petra's cold eyes. And I knew. They weren't planning to let me stay in this house. The moment I signed, they'd sell it out from under me. And where would I live? I asked softly. Well, Marcus said, exchanging a glance with Petra, we've been looking at some really nice assisted living facilities. Places where you'd have medical care on site, activities, people your own age. You want to put me in a home? It wasn't a question. Ma, don't think of it like that. Think of it as retirement. No more worrying about this big house. No more stress. I looked down at the papers again. The section marked for my signature. All I had to do was sign, and I'd lose everything. I need to think about it, I said. Marcus's smile tightened. Ma, the attorney is here now. It would really help if we could just take care of this today. I said I need to think about it, I repeated, more firmly. Petra leaned forward. Vivian, we're trying to help you. You're not getting any younger. What happens if you fall again? What if something worse happens and there's no one here to help you? It was a threat wrapped in concern. Sign over your house or end up helpless and alone. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and wondered when he'd become this person. When greed had replaced love. When his mother had become nothing more than an obstacle between him and money. I'll sign, I said quietly. But I want to read through everything first. Make sure I understand. Marcus exhaled in relief. Of course, Ma. Take your time. So I did. I read every page while they watched. And while I read, the cameras recorded everything. Every word they said. Every promise they made. Every lie they told. And I knew that when this was over, I'd have enough evidence to destroy them. The question was, did I have the strength to do it? She's got them on camera, but signing those papers is a dangerous game. Will she actually sign away her house? Or does Grandma have one more trick up her sleeve? Comment don't sign it if you're screaming at your screen right now. And keep watching, this trap is about to snap shut. I held the pen over the signature line for what felt like an hour but was probably only 30 seconds. Marcus was leaning forward so eagerly I could smell his cologne, the expensive kind Vernon never would have wasted money on. Petra had her phone out, probably ready to photograph the signed document the moment my pen touched paper. Donald Fitzroy watched with the detached interest of a man who'd done this 1,000 times and didn't care about number 1001. Just sign right there, Ma, Marcus said softly. Then we can take care of everything. I pressed the pen to paper. Made the first loop of the V in Vivian. Then I stopped. Actually, I said, setting the pen down. I do have one question. Marcus's jaw tightened. What's that? If I sign this and the house goes into the trust, what happens to my belongings? To Vernon's things? All our furniture, our photos, the memories we made here for 43 years? We'll pack everything up, Petra said quickly. Store what's important. Donate the rest. And who decides what's important? I asked. Me? Or you? Silence. Donald Fitzroy cleared his throat. Mrs. Kovac, perhaps we should schedule another meeting when you've had more time to— No, Marcus interrupted. She's clear-headed now. Ma, you said yourself you were confused this morning. Let's do this while you're thinking straight. While I'm thinking straight. The irony was almost funny. You know what I remember now? I said, looking directly at my son. I remember last night. All of it. The color drained from Marcus's face. Ma, you said, I know what I said. I lied. Just like you lied. Just like you've been lying for months. I stood up, my hip protesting but my spine straight. I remember your wife and a nurse standing over my bed with a syringe. I remember them talking about making me compliant. About how I wouldn't remember anything in the morning. About how you were downstairs waiting for me to sign papers. Petra shot to her feet. You're confused. The medication. The medication I never took, I cut her off. The pills I spit out because something told me not to trust you. The pills you watched me swallow but never checked my mouth after. I pulled out my phone and held it up so they could see the screen. The security footage, paused on a perfect frame of Petra and the nurse standing over my bed, syringe clearly visible. I have video, I said calmly. Timestamps. Audio. Everything. And I've already sent copies to multiple locations in case something happens to me. Marcus stood slowly, his hands raised like I was pointing a gun at him instead of a phone. Ma, listen. You don't understand. We were trying to help you. You've been so depressed since Dad died, and the surgery made everything worse. We thought. You thought you'd drug me and steal my house, I finished. You thought I was too old, too weak, too confused to stop you. You thought wrong. Donald Fitzroy was already packing up his papers. I have no knowledge of any impropriety, he said quickly. I was hired to facilitate a legal transfer of property. If there are allegations of coercion or fraud, I need to withdraw from. Save it, I said. I have you on camera too. Sitting in my living room, helping my son pressure a supposed confused elderly woman into signing over her property. I'm sure the state bar would love to see that footage. He left without another word, practically running out my front door. It was just me, Marcus, and Petra now. What do you want? Petra asked, her voice sharp as broken glass. Money? Fine. We'll pay you. Just delete that video. What I want, I said, is for both of you to get out of my house. And what I want after that is something I'm still deciding. Whether to go to the police. Whether to press charges for attempted elder abuse, fraud, forgery. Whether to sue you for the money you've already stolen from me. Stolen? Marcus's voice cracked. Ma, I never, don't lie to me anymore. I shouted, and he flinched like I'd struck him. I've checked my accounts. I've seen the withdrawals. The transfers. The credit cards opened in my name. I've seen all of it, Marcus. Every penny you took while I was recovering from surgery. While I was grieving your father. While I trusted you. Tears were streaming down my face now, and I didn't bother to wipe them away. I gave you everything. I worked myself half to death to send you to college. I helped you with your down payment when you bought your first house. I babysat your kids every weekend for 6 years. And this is how you repay me? By trying to drug me and steal my home? We needed the money, Petra said coldly. Marcus's business is failing. We're drowning in debt. You have this huge house you don't need and more money than you'll ever spend. It's not fair that you sit here alone in 4 bedrooms while we're struggling to keep our kids in private school. The entitlement in her voice took my breath away. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you. Get out of my house right now. Ma, Marcus started. Get out! I screamed. Get out before I call the police right now and have you arrested for trespassing. They left. Marcus looked back once from the doorway, his face twisted with something between guilt and anger, but Petra grabbed his arm and pulled him away. I watched through the window as they got in their car and drove off. Then I locked the door, sat down on the couch, and finally let myself fall apart. Claudette and Therese were through the back door in seconds, wrapping me in their arms while I sobbed. You did it, Claudette whispered. You got everything on camera. His confession. Her confession. All of it. I know, I choked out. But he's still my son. He's still the little boy I raised. No, Therese said gently. That little boy is gone. The man who tried to drug you and steal from you? He's the one you have to deal with now. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing didn't make it hurt any less. She confronted them, got their confessions on camera, but the hardest part is still coming. What would you do with that evidence? Go to the police? Sue them? Or try to work it out privately? Drop your thoughts in the comments and buckle up, because Grandma's about to make the biggest decision of her life. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I went to the bank. Not just any bank, Horizon Trust, where Vernon and I had kept our accounts for 30 years. Where Shelby Hayes had been our personal banker since she was a nervous 23-year-old fresh out of college. She was the assistant manager now, and when I walked through those doors at 9 o'clock sharp, her professional smile faltered. Mrs. Kovac, she said, coming around her desk quickly. I wasn't expecting you. Is everything all right? No, Shelby, I said. Everything is not all right. I need to see every transaction on all my accounts for the past 6 months. And I need to know if anyone else has been given access to my accounts without my written permission. Her face went pale. Let me pull up your profile. Why don't you come into my office? We sat down behind closed doors, and I watched her fingers fly over her keyboard. Her expression got darker with every screen she pulled up. Mrs. Kovac, she said carefully, I'm showing that your son Marcus was added as a joint account holder on your checking and savings accounts on April 23rd. Do you remember authorizing that? April 23rd. 3 days after my hip surgery. When I was still in the hospital, hooked up to IVs, barely able to remember my own address from the anesthesia. No, I said. I never authorized that. Show me the paperwork. She printed out the authorization form. There was my signature at the bottom, or what was supposed to be my signature. The same too-perfect forgery I'd seen on the power of attorney document. This is fraud, I said flatly. I never signed this. I was in the hospital on April 23rd. I couldn't even sit up without help, much less come to a bank and sign paperwork. Shelby looked like she might be sick. Mrs. Kovac, I processed this myself. Your son came in with the form. He said you'd signed it before your surgery but wanted to wait until after to file it. He showed me his ID, and the signature looked authentic, so It's not your fault, I said, even though I was furious. He's my son. You had no reason to suspect he was forging my signature. But I need to know what he did with that access. Show me the transactions. For the next hour, we went through 6 months of statements. And with each page, I felt sicker. Withdrawals of $1,500 here, $2,000 there. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Credit card payments I hadn't authorized. By the time we finished, the total was over $78,000. $78,000. Money Vernon and I had saved for decades. Money I'd planned to leave to my grandchildren, to charity, to the community theater that had given me so much joy. Money my son had stolen while I was at my most vulnerable. I want to file a police report, I said. And I want to freeze all my accounts immediately. Can we do that? Absolutely, Shelby said. I'm so sorry this happened, Mrs. Kovac. The bank will fully cooperate with any investigation. And between you and me? I always thought there was something off about those transactions. Your spending patterns completely changed overnight. But I didn't have cause to flag it until now. We spent another hour filling out fraud reports and changing all my account numbers and passwords. Shelby helped me open a new account, one Marcus would never have access to, and transferred my remaining funds into it. When I finally left the bank, I had a folder 2 inches thick full of evidence. Transaction records. Forged signatures. Unauthorized withdrawals. All of it documented, certified, ready to be handed over to the police. But I didn't go to the police station. Not yet. Because Therese had one more thing she wanted to try. That afternoon, she came to my house with a private investigator named Rex Dalton. Former FBI, she said. Specialized in financial crimes and elder abuse. He was a barrel-chested man in his 60s with kind eyes and a handshake that could crush rocks. Mrs. Kovac, he said, settling into my living room chair. Therese has filled me in on the basics, but I need to hear everything from you. Start from the beginning. So I told him. Everything. Vernon's death. The stroke I'd had 6 months later that left me weak on one side for weeks. The hip surgery. How Marcus had slowly taken over, just to help, Ma, until I'd woken up to find my life wasn't my own anymore. I told him about the attempted injection. The forged documents. The $78,000 stolen from my accounts. Rex took notes in a leather notebook, his face expressionless. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Mrs. Kovac, what you're describing is a pattern. Not a one-time mistake. Not a desperate grab for quick cash. This is systematic financial exploitation with a clear escalation pattern. And the attempted drugging? That tells me they were getting ready for the endgame. The endgame? I asked. Getting you declared mentally incompetent, he said bluntly. Drugging you, making you sign documents while sedated, then using those documents to claim you're not capable of managing your affairs. They get guardianship, sell your house, take control of everything. By the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. You're in a facility somewhere, and they've liquidated your entire estate. The room spun. Claudette grabbed my hand. But she stopped them, she said fiercely. She was smart enough to stay awake. To record everything. She was lucky, Rex corrected gently. And yes, smart. But Mrs. Kovac, I need you to understand something. Your son and daughter-in-law aren't going to stop just because you confronted them. People like this, when they're backed into a corner, they get desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. What are you saying? I asked. I'm saying we need to move fast. File police reports, yes. But also get ahead of them. Because right now, they know you have evidence. They're probably meeting with a lawyer, figuring out how to discredit you. How to claim you're paranoid, mentally unstable, that the videos are edited or misunderstood. They'll try to flip the narrative. Therese nodded. Which is why we strike first. Tomorrow morning, we file criminal complaints with the police and civil suits for fraud, elder abuse, and theft. We get a restraining order to keep them away from you. We freeze any assets they might have purchased with your money. And we make sure this goes public so they can't spin the story their way. Public? My voice came out small. You mean, tell people? Tell everyone what my son did? Yes, Therese said firmly. Because secrecy protects abusers, Vivian. It lets them operate in the shadows. But light? Light kills them. When people know what Marcus did, he loses his power. He loses his reputation. He loses the ability to claim he was just a concerned son helping his confused mother. I thought about my neighbors. My friends at the senior center. The people at church who'd known Marcus since he was a boy. They'd all see me as the grandmother whose own son tried to rob her. They'd look at me with pity. With that head tilt of sympathy I'd come to hate since Vernon died. But then I thought about other women. Other grandmothers who might be going through this right now. Who might be too scared or ashamed to speak up. Who might not have security cameras or good friends or a lawyer willing to fight for them. Okay, I said. We go public. We file everything. We fight. Rex smiled for the first time. Good. Because we're going to win. I've already started digging into your son's finances, and there are some interesting things showing up. Credit card debt over $200,000. A failed business venture that lost investor money. Gambling charges from 3 years ago that were quietly settled. Your son isn't just greedy, Mrs. Kovac. He's desperate. And that makes our case even stronger. How long will this take? I asked. Weeks? Months? Could be both, Rex said honestly. But we start building the case now. Document everything. Every phone call, every text, every time they show up at your house. You keep that security camera running 24/7. And you don't engage with them unless it's recorded and we're present. That night, after everyone left, I sat in Vernon's chair and looked at the life we'd built. The photos on the walls, Marcus as a baby, as a little boy, graduating college. The family holidays. The birthdays. The moments I'd treasured. And I wondered when it had all gone wrong. When my son had decided his mother's life was worth less than the value of her house. When love had been replaced by $signs. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Mom, please. We need to talk. This has all gotten out of hand. Can we meet somewhere private? Just you and me? Marcus, I showed the text to Therese over the phone. Don't respond, she said immediately. It's a trap. He wants to get you alone, either to intimidate you into dropping this or to record you saying something he can use against you. What should I do? Nothing. Let him panic. Let him sweat. Tomorrow, we file everything, and he'll realize his window to fix this quietly is closed. Then we'll see what he's really made of. I didn't respond to the text. But I didn't sleep either. I lay awake all night, listening to every creak of my old house, wondering if Marcus would show up. Wondering if he'd try something worse than a syringe this time. Wondering if I really knew my own son at all. At dawn, I got up and got dressed. Put on my best church outfit, the navy blue suit Vernon had loved. Did my makeup carefully. Because today, I was going to war. And I was going to look my enemy in the eye and refuse to blink. Tomorrow the legal battle begins, but tonight Marcus sent that text. What's he planning? Is it really a trap? Comment below if you think she should meet with him one last time or cut him off completely. Hit subscribe because this grandmother is about to bring down the hammer of justice, and you don't want to miss it. The Riverside County Police Station smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. I'd never been inside before, never had a reason to be. Vernon and I were law-abiding people. We paid our taxes, followed the speed limits, never even got a parking ticket. Now I was sitting in Detective Miranda Oakes's office, filing a criminal complaint against my own son. Detective Oakes was maybe 40, with steel-gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. Mrs. Kovac, I'm going to be straight with you. Elder abuse cases are some of the hardest to prosecute, especially when family is involved. Defense attorneys paint the victim as confused, vindictive, or manipulated by outside parties. I have video evidence, I said. Clear footage of my daughter-in-law and a nurse attempting to inject me with sedatives without my consent. I saw the video you emailed, Detective Oakes said. It's compelling. But a defense lawyer will argue that the nurse was there at your request, that you'd agreed to treatment and simply don't remember. They'll bring in medical experts to testify about post-surgical confusion, medication side effects, trauma-induced false memories. My heart sank. So you're saying even with proof, they might get away with it? I'm saying it won't be easy. But that doesn't mean we won't try. She pulled out a form. I'm opening an official investigation into elder financial abuse and attempted assault. We'll need to interview the nurse. Do you have her name? Nurse Brennan, I said. First name unknown. But she was clearly hired by my son and daughter-in-law. We'll find her. In the meantime, I need copies of all your financial records, the forged documents, and any other evidence you've gathered. We'll also need to interview your witnesses, Claudette, your attorney, your banker. This is going to be a process, Mrs. Kovac. Weeks, probably months. Are you prepared for that? Was I prepared? To spend months reliving the worst betrayal of my life? To sit in courtrooms and watch my son lie about me? To have my mental competency questioned by strangers? I don't have a choice, I said. If I don't fight this, he wins. And if he wins, how many other families does he do this to? How many other elderly people does he target? Detective Oakes's expression softened. You're brave. A lot of people in your situation would rather let it go than fight their own children. My son stopped being my child the moment he tried to drug me, I said. Now he's just a criminal who needs to be stopped. I spent 3 hours at the police station, signing forms, giving statements, handing over evidence. When I finally left, it was almost noon, and I was exhausted. But there was no time to rest. Therese had filed the civil suits that morning: fraud, theft, elder abuse, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And she'd filed for a temporary restraining order against Marcus and Petra, requiring them to stay at least 100 yards away from me and my property. The hearing is set for Friday, Therese told me over lunch at Rosie's Diner, the same place Marcus had bought those cinnamon rolls. The irony wasn't lost on me. they'll have a chance to contest the restraining order. Which means you'll have to face them in court. I'm ready, I said, though my hands were shaking as I lifted my coffee cup. What will they say? What's their defense? Probably that you're confused and being manipulated by me and Claudette. That they were only trying to help you. That the power of attorney and bank access were things you agreed to but don't remember. Classic Darvo. Darvo? Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's a manipulation tactic where the abuser claims they're the real victim. Marcus will say you're the one hurting him. That he's just a concerned son being persecuted by his paranoid, ungrateful mother. The words hit like a slap. Because I could already hear Marcus saying them. Could see his wounded expression, his carefully crafted hurt. That afternoon, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mrs. Kovac? This is Patricia Brennan. The nurse from that night. My blood turned to ice. How did you get my number? From the nursing registry. Look, I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? Please? It's important. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But curiosity won out. I'll meet you. Tomorrow. 1 o'clock at Central Park, by the fountain. And I'm bringing people with me. That's fine, she said quickly. I need to tell you what really happened. What your son told me. Please. She hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Therese and Rex. It could be a setup, Rex warned. She might be trying to get you on record saying something incriminating. Or she might be ready to flip, Therese countered. Nurses who participate in these schemes often have no idea what they're really part of. She might have genuine remorse. Either way, I said, I'm meeting her. But you'll both be there, hidden, recording everything. Damn right we will, Rex said. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about Nurse Brennan's voice on the phone. She'd sounded scared. Young. Nothing like the cold professional I'd heard standing over my bed with a syringe. What had Marcus told her? What lies had he spun to get her to do something so illegal, so unethical? At midnight, my doorbell rang. I looked at the security camera feed on my phone and saw Petra standing on my porch, alone, her face red and blotchy from crying. She was holding a piece of paper. Against every ounce of common sense, I opened the door, but kept the chain lock on. What do you want? I asked. I want to talk, Petra said, her voice hoarse. Please, Vivian. Just 5 minutes. I need you to understand. Understand what? That you tried to drug me? That you wanted to steal my house? It wasn't supposed to be like that, she sobbed. Marcus said you'd agreed to everything. He said you wanted to move to assisted living but were too proud to say it. He said the power of attorney was your idea, that you just didn't remember signing it because of the stroke. I believed him, Vivian. I swear I believed him. I wanted to slam the door in her face. But something in her voice made me pause. What's on the paper? I asked. She held it up. It was a check. For $78,000. Made out to me. Signed by both her and Marcus. It's everything, she whispered. Every penny Marcus took from your accounts. We're giving it back. All of it. Just please don't press charges. Please don't destroy our family.